There is nothing more important than you being really connected to yourself and honoring your desires, honoring your truth, honoring your boundaries, honoring your passion, your pleasure, honoring your needs. There's absolutely nothing more important than that. Everything else will stem from that. And we cannot build a new paradigm, a new earth without you doing that. It is your job. And it's a job that is so important that will impact how we live as a society, as a species on earth moving forward.
Welcome to the Awaken the Matriarch podcast, a show devoted to supporting women to reclaim their power, share their gifts, and live in alignment with their true nature. I'm your host, Melissa Collarette, lifestyle designer, transformational coach, author, and proud mama. I am so honored and excited for you to dive into today's conversation with Renata De Melo. She is a third-generation medicine woman originally from Brazil, a leader in transformational sales and embodied leadership. Her teachings have had such an impact on my life when we met several years ago. And I know that you are going to get so much from what we talk about today. We dive into her journey of being brought up by powerful women and being in a lineage of medicine women and how that has impacted her life today. She also shares some practices that you can weave into your life starting today that are quite simple to restore your energy and reconnect to your power as a woman. We also look at self-worth and vulnerability, as well as creating a new paradigm of motherhood. There are so many golden nuggets woven into this conversation. So pay attention, take notes, and be open to anything that lights a spark inside of you or makes you feel alive. Now let's dive in. Renata, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited that you're here, but also really honored that you're taking the time because I've been watching you from afar, even though we've had our, moments when we were in the same container, you as a coach, me as a participant. And I have just admired the way you show up in the world. And I want to acknowledge you for that strength, that beauty,
Mm.
that grace. And you lit something up in me probably when it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it was on a coaching call with Kaboom that was led by Preston Smiles and your partner, Zion. Gosh, I love Zion's coaching. He's such a badass. Um, and in that conversation, you were leading it with David Paré. And I'll be honest, I had like a judgment. Of like, okay, this woman's leading a sales call. She has these beautiful earrings. And I was like, okay, whatever. But then once you started talking, I was like, oh, damn, like this girl is for real. Like she's got this power. And I don't remember all the details of what you said, but there was something in your presence, in your energy, in your commitment to have us see that the work we were doing in the world was like needed and that we had to take responsibility for the service we were putting out into the world is something I still cherish today because it was like a small moment in a conversation that has carried on for all these years and the main message was like, stop putting your shit on other people.
Mm.
They don't need that, they need you
Sounds
to
about right.
yeah. So I want to thank you for that. And then after, we had a few other conversations. So I'm excited to see like a few years later with your evolution and share your story with the people who will be listening. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm really excited to dive in and whatever way I can be of service to your community and the women that will come across this podcast, I'll be happy to. So feel free to go anywhere, everywhere. And what you just shared, it just reminds me of that, saying that people won't remember what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And
Mm.
5 years ago, you're not quite sure what that was, what I was saying, but it was just that feeling of like, go and do it and um, show up to your mission. So much of that to me already speaks to what we're going to talk about today, which is so much around like the energy and that you bring and what you're working with.
Yes, I've always been big on energy and vibes with people. And I mean, there was quite a few people in that container, but there was like an immediate like feeling of synchronicity with you. And then after, as I learned a little bit more about you, it feels as if our paths probably crossed when you and I
Mhm.
both lived in Montreal at the same time, but we never met. We even had some mutual connections. So it's interesting how life brings people together, even though at the time I was in the Laurentians, you were in Austin, I think, or still kind of navigating where you were going to live, I think. But one thing I want to dive in with is because you have such a unique background. You're originally from Brazil and you're a third generation medicine woman. And I would love to learn more about that journey because I feel it's something that is so valuable. But I for one, don't know enough about what your culture has had as an impact on you and also what it means to be a medicine woman and how does that show up in the world. So I would love to hear a little bit more about your story and how that has shown up in your life today.
Yeah. I mean, it's always interesting when somebody wants to learn about something that feels so foreign to them. And but for me, for you, it's just like, oh, I'm inside the jar. It's like, what do
Mm.
you mean? What do you want to know? Because it's like I just grew up in this. I grew
Mhm.
up with it. I don't know anything different.
Right.
And I remember Gabor Mate talking about one of he went to France. He went to the south of France, and he really was interested in seeing like the culture there was so untouched. The community was just so knit together. And you got there, and if you ask people about their culture, about how they live, they will feel weird. And because it's like, what do you mean? Like we don't have a cognitive, a rational understanding of how it's different or what we're doing. We're just doing, we're just being.
Mm.
Um, and I often feel like that with my upbringing because growing up among a family of medicine women was so powerful, and to me was just like it's what we did. It's just like what I grew up with. And but let me bring something here, and then if you have more clarifying questions, please feel free to ask. What was that like? My grandma was always a very potent, powerful woman. She was the head of a temple, really a high priestess, and a temple that she built.
Mm.
And we all got to carry um, our tradition that came from her, um, and it's a tradition. It's an Afro-Brazilian tradition. It's called Umbanda, and uh, it's in a tradition that involves a lot of chants and a lot of rituals and ceremonies and working with the elements of nature. And basically, um, we we grow up knowing that we're one with nature and we have all the elements inside us, and we we get to work with the energy of each element to support us in our lives. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so we talk about the wind, the water, the fire, but the wind has 1,000 different qualities. You can get a tornado and you can get a soft breeze. So these are
Mhm.
two extremes. Within those two extremes, there are many different ones. And so we grow up just knowing how to identify the quality of different of these elements in a certain composition, and understanding what is it they're bringing, and then incorporating that into our life. You have the water, you have fresh water, you have ocean water, you have a water Niagara Fall kind of water, waterfall, fresh water, or you have like a nice soft river, that flows, a stream that flows by you. Very different qualities of water. And so this water is water with fire, water with this, and so you understand the composition of that. Um, but we never had a cognitive development of that per se. We just grew up
Right.
with it. And with that, there are chants and that activate these different elements and the energy that they bring. Everything carries energy, everything has a frequency. And so when you can activate these frequencies and learn how to work with these frequencies, now what you're doing is that you're just one with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that's happening outside. It's something that you're it's all integrated in your life. And you can use that for healing. You can use that for how you're being in your relationship. You can use that for gaining clarity on something. You can use that for everything. It's just a way of living.
Mm.
um, and so I grew up among many women chanting, using herbs, and doing rituals and ceremonies of offerings to these elements, to earth, um, climbing mountains and spending the night under the moon stars and just doing rituals. And it was just very beautiful. And it's something that even though I left home when I was 15
Wow.
and lived in Canada for 20 years, it's something that never got no lost or diluted. It's been so present in my life.
I love that. And I really want to also talk about your leaving home at 50 and moving to
Mhm.
Canada. I'm curious, do you know how your grandmother got to be, high priestess and leader of this temple? Because I'm curious
I
also
built it.
culturally, she built it herself.
Mhm.
Wow. And do you know what led her to doing that?
We just grew up with her having a temple. So um, I never asked.
Hmm.
Spirit will, there's just our mission, right? You're sitting here and you're doing what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, and when we don't fulfill our mission, it will destroy us.
Hmm.
If that there's that desire to create and to build and to do something, and at first you're like, really, but really, okay, and when you listen, and in spirit will keep talking to you.
Hmm.
And when you don't answer the calling will destroy you. it
Hmm.
will it will get you into a place where you feel unfulfilled, where you feel a lack of purpose, or if you feel things are start falling apart, because it's just what your soul signed up for.
Hmm. I totally agree with that, and I've definitely experienced that in my life where there's been like a strong calling that it's like I have to do this, otherwise it's such a discomfort if I let it not filter or just if I sit with it and not take action is what I mean to say. Um, I'm curious though, specifically around women, because if I think of my lineage, such powerful women
Mhm.
on my mother's side, and I don't know as much on my father's side. And I think over the years, I've really connected more to my grandmother, even though she passed away when I was 11 years old, without knowing a lot of the questions I have. Like I don't have the answers because I don't have her to ask, but I do so in my spiritual practice. But I wonder, what was it like for women in your culture? Because I feel the women in my family didn't necessarily have the opening to tap into their deep strengths, particularly around their witchy side and their ability to feel so deeply. For
Mhm.
example, my mom was brought up in a schooling with the nuns, and they would, you know, hit her hand because she was left-handed, and she'd have to wet her pants because she wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom. So I feel there's a
Yeah.
lot of her power that was cut off, like literally.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I'm impressed that your grandmother did that of her own. I'm just curious to know what was the conversation around women or female empowerment, and maybe then or even today in your culture.
I don't think there was much conversation of
Mm,
it at all. Things like they just were, you know. I don't think there were meetings and masterminding around, being at your fullest and doing this. It was just they were, yeah, um they were just doing their thing that they're here to do, period. Um
and was there an
Today,
acceptance with for men and women? Like were the women's, or was there an equality, I would say?
no.
Okay.
No, women are, were very much taking care of the house and, being the mother, and that has no value in this patriarchal world that we are in. And the men were working, and they had it was very segregated in that sense, and uh, a very macho culture. Brazil is an extremely macho culture.
Mm,
I think what they had, and this tradition, imagine the Catholics in Brazil is extremely Catholic now, more Christian, but one of the biggest Catholic countries in the world. And so there's definitely a lot of uh, looking down at what she was doing.
mm,
And it would definitely wasn't, I don't want to romanticize this. It was hard for her to just be who she was,
mm,
because you're just being the environment is not supportive of what you're creating. I think we're in a much better position today as
mhm,
women, and then we get to honor the women like your mom, my grandma, my mom, who walked the path so we could be here today, so we could have this freedom of expression and this ability to harness our power and share our gifts and our value and really command ourselves, and not being told of what, when, and how things can be done.
mhm,
uh, Massive. We got trauma from a lot of what they couldn't heal, and they did their best. And I'm sure there's a lot of women that will be listening to this that have had a very tough relationship with their moms. So there's trauma in that. And these women if we can talk about this today, it's because these women walked the path that
mhm,
liberated us somehow in some level. And I think we really get to honor and celebrate that, and be grateful that they carved a path that they couldn't really shine in,
mhm.
but that we get to just expand and take so much further.
Yeah, that's so powerful because I mean, you and I both have daughters, and I feel a big part of my path is honoring the work that women before me did or started to
Yeah,
do so that I can continue that. But then also I know that my daughter is going to blow me away with what her
yeah,
generation will be able to create, and probably whatever work we'll have done will seem obsolete, but every little seed planted contributes to the next. And I want to honor your grandmother for the work she did, because that's absolutely beautiful, to come from a lineage of like that courage. Cause like you said, and I
mm,
think it was important, because I think it could be easily romanticized, right? To be like, oh, this woman did this. And like, particularly, like, let's say from where I'm standing, I'm from North America. Like, you're like, oh, from Brazil, it's like so exotic, right? We get this like
mm,
visual. We immediately kind of, our brains want to like some generalize a story. And obviously, we're speaking for a few minutes within many like generations and stories that would weave it all together. But I think it's important to acknowledge, and I think sometimes even within ourselves, is that whenever you're looking at somebody's story, like there's so much more.
yeah,
There's the beauty and the like what's come out, but like there's so much work done in the dark. I mean, that's why
yeah.
we have the stars in the night sky. Like there's a lot of work done in the dark as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. One thing, though, that I would say that you touched on, and that is always very present growing up, is the strength in the women in my lineage, in my family. And if you look into your own lineage, you're going to find that strength there as well, at some point. And I think we get so, uh, our spirit starts losing power and dying in a certain way after, all these traumas, and the caretakers, people that were supposed to be our caretakers and nurture and nourish us, are hitting us and traumatizing us. So um, that gets lost. But if you look back, you will find immense amount of strength in the woman in your lineage, and that's just what being a woman is.
Mhm.
But the strength and the courage in my family, among the women, were really, really powerful. It is really powerful, have always been. And my grandmother was such a big example of that.
Mhm. And so, how do you weave your learnings or being a medicine woman in the work that you do today? or just the life that you lead? Like, I know it's like it's embedded, it seems to, it's who you are, but are there certain key aspects that you use either within your work or your everyday life that allow you to stay rooted in that?
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. First of all, I chant all the time. And I'm always chanting, and I'm always, Zaya, one of her favorite, my daughter, one of her favorite bedtime songs is a chant. And she's like, "Oh,
Oh.
sing that one, mommy." And so it's like, and it's like she's growing up with that now, the way I grew up. It's just going to be so weaved in how she be
Mm.
in the world if she chooses, and she chooses not to go this route, that's okay too. But everywhere from entering a space and knowing the energy of the space and your energy, knowing to protect your energy, knowing to clear your energy, knowing how to clear the energy of a space. Your home, knowing when to clear your home and how to activate your home, um, how to heal certain uh, just diseases or illnesses with like plants and chants and just energetically, um how to um how to help somebody heal their own um stuff, in whether it's physical or emotional, mental, because it's all energy. I think what really happened is that we in growing up we just became very not masterful, I'm not sure if that's the word, but really attuned to energy and working with energy and knowing how to channel energy, how to call, activate, clear, um, and hold space, energetic space. And so we and I know that everything is energy, materialized in motion, being directed somewhere. Everything has a frequency. So um, when you know that everything is energy, then you can see, oh, okay, well, this conversation is not going so well with this person. So what needs to shift here? What's the energy that's being asked to be looked at that we're not looking at right now? Or okay, well, the space feels so weird. Well, let's clear this up. Like, when was the last time that you were here? When was the last time that you were at your home? And was there somebody here before? No, let's just clear
Mm.
things that are there. Um, or knowing when you're energetically leaking and things are just falling apart or just happening. You're like, okay, there's an energetic leak somewhere, and actually there's a breach somewhere in your energetic field that things are just entering. And so it's everywhere. Going back to attuning to my own womanhood and keeping my fire alive and tending to all facets of me, who I am as a woman, as a mother, as a lover, as a partner, as um, a, a woman, to myself, as a conduit, and just really, it's everywhere. Just knowing what it is that you need to do to um, keep it all alive and well fed.
I love that. And I'm curious what you would say, because I feel I could kind of foresee someone listening or watching this being like, okay, cool. And someone might already be like, yeah, got that. Like, I'm in that space. I've been doing these practices or whatnot. But someone who might be feeling maybe disconnected right now, or maybe in this like very energy leaking kind of phase of her life, what's one thing, like a practical tool that you might encourage someone to reconnect? Because there is a part of me, and correct me if I'm, or me, you might have a different belief. I believe that we all have like a medicine woman inside of us. Like, we all are able to
Yes.
heal ourselves and to,
Mhm.
like, we are energy. And but I know, even for me, my own evolution, like I was very much connected to that. And I feel children are. And I had to like refind it after I kind of lost myself in trying to fit into the patriarchal conditioning that I was kind of part of. And that led to disease and a lot of things, but I healed myself. And I'm very much attuned to that. But there are moments where I like have to get myself back on track. So I'm curious, is there like one simple practice that someone listening or watching could maybe try or like step back into in order to recenter herself, reconnect to her own medicine woman?
Yeah. And I believe you're right. I believe that women are uh, just it, women, we're Gaia in human form. And Gaia has everything that we need to heal, to thrive, to live. And we have all that within us. And just because we are women, we have a special ability to connect to her and channel everything that Gaia, Earth, Pachamama can has as well. Um, it's just how connected we are to it
Mm.
or not. A simple practice. Um, One of the things that I love doing are baths with herbs, and whenever I feel there are certain herbs that will clear, certain herbs that will activate, and so knowing what to bring in. So if, let's say if you're feeling really lost or confused, um, I will do like a bath with rosemary. It's a beautiful clearing plant, and sage. You can put some white roses there at the end. So you boil the water, and then once it comes to a boil, you turn it off. You put all the herbs in there, and the last thing that you put are the rose petals, just because they're so delicate.
Mm.
And I always save some, and then just let it steep there for a bit, and then you just bring it to your bath and uh, take a beautiful just bath with it. And or if you don't have a bathtub, you can just um, shower yourself, have your own shower, clear yourself, your skin, your as you normally would, and then you can pour that bath on to you. Um, and just we always do it from the neck down, never on the head, because the head is for your um, we call them orishas, but these are the deities and your guides, and so we don't touch the head with
Mm.
anything else, unless there are specific rituals that will require for the head to be washed and touched, and but that's a different story. But just yeah, if you have a bathtub, great, just put it in your bath, shower first, and then just stay in that bath for a while. And then I would bring in things that feel really lush and that help you connect, whether it's your crystals, or maybe you have a mala, or you have, um, an essential oils. And we always put sea salt, because sea salt is extremely clearing. When you go to the ocean and you have an ocean, you come out of the ocean just like, oh, you feel like you just let out so much there. That's
Mhm.
that's the salt, and so we bring in salt as that as well. You put that in your bath. You put that in the bathtub, bring your bath water in, put your roses on top, and just stay there. You can put some music, some mantras. If you want to chant, you can chant. I will chant. If you don't know what to chant, there's some very simple things that you can do, like just chant Om if you want. That
Mm.
will reconnect you. You can chant a song that really helps you to reconnect with yourself, bringing that vibration that will move inward will be very helpful. And if you want, just have some music as well. That is something that you can do at home. It's absolutely beautiful. It is time for yourself, no cell phones, and just let the plants do their work. The salt will clear you. The rosemary will just also help clear and bring you back to that truth. You can put lavender if you want. Like when you say like, oh, lavender essential oil, you can have the lavender there and you can put more essential oils in it. It's a property of that plant that will get activated. If you're feeling really low and upset, you can bring
Mm.
flowers and put it in your bath. It Whatever used for tea or for as essential oils, the property of that, it has the same use in your bath, so
Mm.
then you can just add that there and let the plant do their work, reconnect with nature. um, you can go for a walk, but you can also bring that into your own ritual. These are one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling that it's just too much. I need to clear out, just really clear out, and come back to myself.
Oh my gosh, I Love that. I'm huge on baths actually. And that's something my mom did kind of like introduce my sister and I to. Like my mom takes a bath almost every day. And same
Mhm.
here. And it has become more of a sacred ritual. There are moments where it's like I'm just like soaking, but other times where it's like, okay, what's the intention here? Even yesterday I
Yeah.
did a full sea salt bath with lavender infusion, but I've never done rosemary and sage. So I love that you brought that because this is something I think we sometimes overcomplicate what needs to get done, or what's an action we can take to reconnect to ourselves. But I feel a big part is also like that intention of being open to the healing power of mother nature, to awaken our own healing power as well, and and seeing the beauty and power of something as simple as a herb, and see like this, there's so much potent medicine in the tiniest things surrounding us
Mhm.
on our day-to-day life that I feel have we've often disconnected from. But like you can reset your soul by looking at a flower bloom. Like it's just like it's a mother nature, as you said, is so powerful and healing, but it's also who we are. So I love that you
And,
brought that practical tool there.
yeah, and you hit it. You hit it on the nail. Like it's just anytime that we're really disconnected from ourselves, we're certainly disconnected from nature. Anytime. And ask yourself, when was the last time I went barefoot walking outside, grounding? When was the last time I went in the ocean? When was the last time I just dove in the snow?
Mhm.
Even that is, I know sometimes just like, okay, after 4 months of snow in Canada, it's annoying. But and we take the simplicity for granted. Things are the most powerful things in the world are extremely simple. That is in business, in sales,
Mm.
and in our personal lives. We take it so for granted, and there's something that wants to overcomplicate things and make it really hard because we feel like we need to work hard for things. We feel like things can only come to us when you work hard enough, which is why so many people have a hard time receiving money and growing their business and um, and getting paid for what's something that is extremely easy for them for what they do
Mhm.
because we think that it has to be hard. Again, this is a result from our patriarchal society. This is actually a result from our industrial revolution in mid 90s, where post-war nobody had anything and economically everybody was suffering, and really both men and women had to go work from long hours and get paid pennies to
Mm.
survive. And so we are all traumatized babies, generations of the Industrial Revolution that has absolutely killed our soul and implanted a lot of paradigms that and yeah, paradigms and ways of thinking that are just not beneficial for us, are just not working for us. And one of them is absolutely that we got to work hard for things. It has to be hard in order for it to be powerful, to be worth it, for it to work. And that is absolutely not the truth. As
Mhm.
a matter of fact, if you're working too hard on something, you're likely missing a lot. You're not being present with it. You're missing the joy of it. You are overcomplicating it. And so there's an energy output that is just, that feels exhausting,
Mhm.
feels overwhelming. It feels like a rat race that you never get to what you actually want. And when you get it, you're already thinking about the next one. And and so your life is likely not as spacious because you're always working for something. It has to be filled with meetings. It has to be filled with presentations. It has to be filled with whatever. And that is just such the old patriarchal, outdated paradigm that we're coming out of.
Mhm.
And we need, absolutely, we need women to wake up to themselves, to their magic, to what it is, the power of the women, in order for us to create this new paradigm that we are creating, this new earth, which is not matriarchal, is not patriarchal, is really an embodiment of both.
Mhm.
And uh, the power of women, our feminine power, lies in the spaciousness. It lies in the silence and the yin, um, of, so we can connect to our intuition, so we can hear what our womb and the universe is really speaking through us.
Mm.
and so that we can hear our guide, so that we can visualize and create, so that our masculine can bring into action.
Mm.
The woman, the feminine, is in that creation mode, visualizing, attuning to what we actually want, where we want to go, designing it, feeling it, that we can attract it, so we can magnetize it. The masculine is there in action. But when we are in our feminine power, we're not just operating from here, which is what most of us are doing. We're just operating from our heads, from our minds, and we're completely losing the wisdom of our bodies, the wisdom of our womb, the wisdom of our heart, the wisdom of our pleasure.
Mm.
And we came in the world with that so that we could use it, so that we could be whole. And yet we're just operating from here.
Mm.
And so it is actually quite simple. It's so much easier than we make it that make it for ourselves. We actually make it quite hard. And when you can really attune to your feminine wisdom, your feminine power, uh, it's in the simplicity, yet extremely powerful things that are already there. Coming back to your breath, listening to your heart, understanding what your pleasure is trying to teach you, the vision that your pleasure is trying to move through you so that you can go and create.
Mm.
And so I feel like we're still very quite far from being a society that our women are really in our power, and it has absolutely nothing to do with how many millions you make and how many CEOs or COOs or whatever are out there. It has to do with how much of your wholeness, your wisdom, can you really attune to and bring to the forefront of how you lead and who you are.
Mm. Oh my gosh, that is so beautifully said, Renata. Thank you so much for bringing that. And and I know I feel that for myself, where I sometimes struggle, even though I know that like simpler is often better. There's often a part of me that's like, will overcomplicate it. And actually, there was a post you shared, I don't know when, but I came across it recently, around creating chaos when we're out about and doing something, and how that's often related to worthiness issues. So there's two things that you kind of awoken in me with what you just shared. Was one, like how simplicity is so powerful, yet I know sometimes I have a resistance to that. And it's like, why? Like particularly in business, I'll admit, is often where I will put on more on my plate than I can actually handle. But then also the worthiness things. I know that's been something, a big part of my work, particularly in the recent years after separating from my daughter's father. It was like, and I still have these moments, like being a single mom, I still have like self-acceptance issues around that, of feeling like super worthy, because there's still a conversation, even though like consciously I wish it wasn't true. Like I know there's still a subconscious part of me that feels lesser than, because I'm still single, kind of thing.
Mm.
So I'm curious if you have something to share about that, because I'm like that. It feels like vulnerable to say that, but I also know that there's women in my space that will resonate with what you just shared and be like, that totally makes sense. But why the fuck am I always complicating things?
Mhm.
And I wanted to bring up that piece of worthiness, because when that post you shared, I felt is such a big piece of like the work I do within myself, but also with women. It's like we are worthy. Like we don't have to prove it. But even just recently, I was like, I'm tired of spending so much time trying to prove my worth. Like, can I just like accept myself and stop being like, maybe, and that often makes me just want to retreat, because I'm like, well, if I feel fully worthy, then I don't even like need to be out there, you know? Anyway, so I'm kind of going
Mm.
into too many directions here, but with what I just shared there, is there an additional piece around, you know, that simplicity and worth maybe that are connected, that you see women often like hold themselves back from, but that can actually be, you know, overcome? Because I know it can be.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I appreciate you just tapping into that vulnerability, and I love that your women get to see you in this, uh, and there's so much strength in that vulnerability. You can only be vulnerable when you're strong,
Mm.
because it's the strength, the inner strength that allows the space, that holds the space for that vulnerability to come through. So I just want to honor you in that for a moment. And worthiness is connected to self-esteem. It anytime that you're thinking worthy is connected to the self-esteem. Am I enough for to be able to receive this? And so many of us, and because again, we are coming out, we're just in the process of destroying this patriarchal paradigm that we're still very much in, but in transition out of. Um, we, women were, just told to be quiet and be pretty and be kind and do what you're told and take care of the kids, and this is all you're good for. Bear the babies, and then the men do the rest, and this is what you're good for. We're very much coming out of this paradigm still, enmeshed with a paradigm of, in order for me to find my worth, I gotta fight. And I gotta be strong, and I gotta match that male energy so that they can see that I can come face to face with it.
Yeah.
Again, this is women, the whole feminine movement. It was very much feminine, not in their power. They're fighting for power, but they're trying to fight with a beast that it's not. It's they're trying to take that place and be like, I deserve to be here too. But it's not us being in our power, owning our power, embodying our power. We're becoming men here to fight for that. And hence the women in suit and the corporate and the corporate world, and the need to look in a certain way in order to be taken seriously, and all the ways that we quote unquote compete against men to find our place, to have our place. Again, all that is, I cannot be who I really am. And that's why we have so many closeted woo-woo women out there and
Oh, yeah.
closeted witches, because it's not safe for us to be us. And we're just now finding that safety. We're just restoring that safety. And I know that we're going to come in a moment where, every woman will be tapped into their witch out there. And, but your worth is very much attached to what you feel deserving of, and your ability to be, and your ability to be yourself fully expressed without feeling that you have to feel validated by others.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up knowing that in order to receive love, we had to be in a certain way. We had to um, be the good girl, or we had to be ambitious, or we had to be both. And we also had to be pretty, but not sexy. And we had to be not quiet, but not shy. And so there's all these things. And so we don't know how to be as women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like we have to we have to go through this process of destruction of our persona, and as an adult now go back and really restore the purity of our essence and who we're really here to be,
Mm-hmm.
in order for us to come out and live the most authentic and expressed selves that we're here to live. And so you tell me, okay, well, if I don't have worthiness issues, and if I feel myself fully worthy, but I don't want to do anything, well, then great, tore it all down. Let it all burn down. And then when it's all burnt down, what's alive?
Mm.
What do you really want? Why do you do this podcast? Why do you help women the way that you help them? What does that spark in you? What does that what happens in you that it's like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't trade this for anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is what life is all about. I just want to be in this space. Well, that's you being your highest expression. It is all for that. And for yourself, for nobody else. For yourself, for what you're here to build, for your lineage. If you think that we are, as women, everybody, but we're talking about women here. We are our ancestors' wildest desires.
Mm.
We are the manifestation of our ancestors' deepest cries and prayers. And it was the path they walked that brought us here. We are the ones that said, yes, I will tend to this mission. This is what our family lineage is bringing forth in the world. I'm coming here for this. When you think about that, it's for you first and foremost, and for the your lineage, your that what you're here to break for your lineage, what you're here to create through your lineage, what you're here to expand. Your lineage will continue. Your daughter, your granddaughter. And so what it is that you're giving them access to so that their path is wider, their path, they can see it so much clearer, they can manifest things in a completely different way.
Mm.
um, we get to do it for ourselves first and foremost, because it sets our life on fire. It sparks us. It makes us feel like our heart is cracked open. It gives us so much pleasure. It gives us
Mm.
tingling. That's why our bodies are the way they work. It's here for to give us signals of like, yeah, this is it, this is it, this is it, more of that. Nope, none of that.
Mm.
Scratch that, let that go. Today we have daughters. We're also doing it for them. You bet. There's no decision that we'll make that is just for ourselves. It's, if anything, is for them first.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but and the question is, what is the role model that you want her to have? Who do you want her to see? And it's um, I bet that it's going to be something along the lines of the most empowered version of myself, so she knows she can be that for herself. That she knows that she's absolutely free to be fully expressed and create whatever she wants to create, that she's absolutely limitless.
Mm.
And in order for her to see that, for Zaya to see that, my daughter, she has to see it at home first.
Absolutely. Oh, I mean, so much of what you just shared there, like literally, I was like, whoo, tearing up with, burning things to the ground, but then also like lighting up our inner fire. And I was thinking back to something you shared earlier in our conversation, like the thousand qualities of wind, of air, and of fire. And I feel I feel that's a big thing for me as I expand more into my womanhood, is not trying to fit just that one definition. Like you were saying before, like you have to express yourself, but not be too loud or not to be too shy. But it's like, we are the wind. We have thousands of qualities. We might be a light breeze, and other times we will be a tornado. And I feel there is moments where, even for myself, like I've honored more my destructive qualities because they've been necessary, especially when I've had to like burn down a version of myself in order to re-blossom. And so you kind of brought that back. It's like we can be so much more than just like be in a box. And I think
And
that's really important.
and the most important thing about that is knowing to harness these energies, so
Mm.
that the destructive energy is not burning the family down. It's not burning
Yeah.
stuff down. It's not like that
Yeah.
fire that's destroying everything, but the destructive energy is working in a very powerful way, so that you have full control of it, so that you're not that
Mm.
wild thing that's breaking stuff and
Right.
telling people to go F themselves. That's not what this is all about. This is about you understanding the quality and the power of that, and how to harness it. When you can
Mhm.
harness it, you have not control. You have control. You are in control. You're not controlling from your mind, but you are in control of the purpose and how to use that.
Mhm. I love that. I think that's so important, and thank you for that reminder. Like, yes, we gotta harness these powers, and that, like, you were talking about this, um, movement where more women will come out of their witch closet, you know? And I think a big part is, like, learn to use these energies and these powers within ourselves
Mhm.
for the right purpose, you know, and knowing that they all have a purpose, but not letting it get too out of control because
Right.
then it's catastrophizing. Um, and when you're talking about, you know, we're doing this, yes, for our daughters and like, who do we want to model? And I feel that's a big part of my work is like, who do I want to be for my daughter? And one of my breakthroughs just even recently was just realizing that there's sometimes goals that I've set for myself because I want my daughter to be proud. Like I want to, and then I realized, wait a second, she may not like what I do. But what will
Mhm.
ultimately be most important is that I feel I was true to myself because I would want that for her. And I won't
Yeah.
lie, it was kind of a challenging realization because I think my greatest fear, and that's what I was kind of looking at, is like, I don't want to disappoint my daughter. I don't want her to feel like I like was a bad mom. But I was like, at some point that won't be in my control, you know, like what her
Yeah.
story is of me. But what is in my control is like, do I feel like I was true, that I did the best that I could do? And being
Mhm.
at peace with that, because I would want her to feel that way, regardless of what someone else might think of her. We have a very strong bond, but you know, there's been moments where I've had my issues with my parents, even though they're amazing, right? So it
Mhm.
was just an interesting kind of reframe of like, okay, I want to make you proud, but I that starts with me being like, I feel anchored in who I am and like
Mhm.
being authentic in what I've done and haven't done because I won't be everything, you know. And I think there's
Yeah.
phases in our growth as humans where we might put our parents up on a pedestal and then realize, oh wait, maybe they were human and had their own struggles at
Yeah.
different times.
Sorry, I'm just going to tap into something you shared because one of the greatest work that we get to do as women is to um, learn and celebrate when we disappoint someone
Mm,
because we're so afraid of disappointing. You're so afraid of disappointing the person that's most important to you, your daughter. You're
mm,
sort of afraid of this, and that's where the people pleasing sneaks in.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
When we're afraid of disappointing and then we don't share our full truth, we put somebody else's desire and truth before ours. We share our truth but we dilute it, we filter it, and we're not the most authentic expression. And in that we are already setting up the relationship for failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're disappointing ourselves to some level.
Mm-hmm.
And this has to be a book written by someone. It's just like disappoint them, like just go and disappoint people. Be okay and celebrate when you disappoint people, and know it's hard because um, that means that you're honoring your truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And man, is there anything more important than you know to get your power back than you honoring your truth? There isn't.
Yeah. And you will definitely disappoint people in doing that because some people won't want you to change, but you can't like live your life disappointing yourself. So I think that's really maybe you'll have to write that book.
When when we disappoint ourselves, we are abandoning ourselves.
Hmm.
And when you're abandoning ourselves, it's not safe to be us. So
Yeah.
we go back into that same patterns and things that happened growing up where we felt abandoned by our caretaker, where we didn't feel held, we didn't feel seen and supported and just heard, and sometimes straight up punished for being who we are. And so it's not safe to be us. Now we're just, we continue doing that as an adult. We're just recreating that cycle, and we're validating that little girl story that it's not safe to be me. It's
Mm.
not safe to be fully expressed, not safe to be loud, it's not safe to be, to ask for what I want. And this is a self-fulfilling prophecy of disappointment and unfulfillment in life. And that's where a lot of us are stuck right now.
Mm. Wow. And what would be one thing you would say or one action step someone could take to like shift that within herself?
Honor your truth. Say no. Put yourself first. When somebody wants something from you, ask, what do I want? Oh, does this feel exciting and alive for me? Great. I'm going to go and do it with my full heart.
Mm.
No, I don't actually. Hey, I'm not going to come over and I'm not going to do this. I'm not available for this right now. It just doesn't feel alive for me.
Mm.
Um, Learn to say no, learn to express what are the parameters that you need to be true in order for this to work for you. It's like,
Mhm.
yes, I can do this. I need you to have this in place. I need to have, you know, hey, can you come and can you cook dinner tonight? Yes, I can. But I'm coming right off a big meeting and I have a full agenda. So I need to pick up the groceries during the day. I need to have everything lined up there. I need to have a menu. I need to have make it pre-cut everything. So then I just have to go and cook it. How does that sound? Very simple, just like family dynamic. Oh yeah, that works. Perfect. Now you're expressing your need, you're expressing the boundaries and the parameters that you want to have in place for something to work for everyone, but first and foremost to feel really good for you to show up in that space.
Mm.
Um learn to say no and express your truth. When you say no and you feel like you want to die because you're like, oh my gosh, now what? Just breathe and say, actually, just, no is a full sentence.
Yeah.
Women need to learn that.
Oh, and I love that response of like, this does this feel alive for me?
Mhm.
I think it's important. I think people can really feel that. And a big part of the work I've done with women is often like guiding them or creating a space for them to inquire, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you need? Because to set those parameters, I think women need to also give themselves space. Like you might have to adjust. There might be times you set some parameters and be like, oh wait, I kind of missed this one. It's like a game you'll learn because
Yeah.
there's been such a disconnection, and one of the first there's 7 guiding principles to my matriarch philosophy. And the first one is like focus on you in terms of like ask yourself what you want. Like you were saying, it's like to honor your truth, you need to pause and be like, do I want this? Like, and start with the
Yeah.
simple things. Do I need this? Does this make me like, does this feel alive? Like I love that
And
perspective.
most people and women don't know what they want.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is not that you don't know how to get what you want, is that you don't know what you want.
Mhm.
And you are constantly creating a certain a pseudo version of your most authentic self, but not quite it because you're not really giving space for it to come through.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, we need, and I think that spaciousness you're referring to, not only just now, but throughout our conversation, is so important. Creating these spaces, these moments to like just listen to our inner fire, to listen to that wisdom, to see what's coming through, because you might have experienced this. I know there's sometimes things that I have wanted did not come from my conscious mind. It was like that inner calling of like, this is what you need to focus on now. This
Mhm.
inner calling. And so sometimes it takes a moment to digest that because it might not fit what you thought was going to be in your plan, but there's this force inside that says this is what you need to step into now, or devote yourself to now. And I know for there's been moments where I was like, but wait, that doesn't fit the plan. It doesn't, it means that there's going to be some challenges. But when I really listen, like that's been true for me. So sometimes this like wanting is also like a calling of like, this is what's meant for you. And I feel that's something you talk about, listening to the spirit and the whispers inside, they will guide you. But sometimes you may
Mhm.
not like the guidance, but like trusting that there's this
Yeah.
deeper force inside of you that knows what's next.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%.
And I want to be mindful of time, but I did want to talk about a little bit your experience around motherhood, and I feel that could be a whole entire conversation in and of itself. But before we started, recording, like we will share, we both have daughters. Mine's about to be 5, literally in a month, and yours is 2. Where are you at on your journey of motherhood? Like, what's the most magical aspect of where you're at with a 2-year-old, and what feels maybe like a challenge that you're working through right now?
Motherhood for me was, I'm in a much better space right now. Motherhood for me was rough. It
Mhm.
was rough. I was not expecting Zaya, although her spirit had already come through for me in ceremony and said she was coming, and she asked if I would accept her, and I said yes. I just asked her for time, and then she. In the same week that she came through for me in ceremony, she also went and whispered in my mom's ears, and my mom called me to say, there's a spirit that came through, and she's saying she's coming to be part of our family, and she's going to be your daughter. And I was like, I know. She came to talk to me this week, and she's
Wow.
so ready. She's so ready, and I
I think
just
that's
really
full
gave.
volume.
I
Yes.
wasn't even with my partner at that time.
Wow.
Um, and it was just such a powerful experience. It was the best ceremony of my life. It was an ayahuasca ceremony, which I work with indigenous, and I've been working with for a few years now, many years now. And she so I knew she was coming, but I did ask her for time. She gave me 6 months, which it wasn't that much time, but basically I was 6 months with my partner before she came through, and we got pregnant. And uh, and so there was definitely a lot of I felt like my life got swept away,
Mm.
and um and looking back at it now, it's like I understand it all, of course, and I can see the silver lining of it all, and it was just perfect. But at that time, I cried for days. I remember we were at a mastermind in Croatia. I found out as we're leaving the room in Croatia, I had a dream, and a lot of my guides and spirit speaks to me in my dreams. I had a dream that I was pregnant, that I was doing a test, and it was positive. And then that morning, I got myself a test, and it was positive. And we went to Germany, and then from Germany, we had one night there, and when we went back to Austin, I cried all my flights. I'll never forget. The flight attendant would just pass by my seat and just bring sweets and chocolate, and because he would just see me like just crying the whole time.
Mm.
Um, it was hard. It was hard. It was an identity shift that I didn't feel ready for. I don't think anybody ever is, but some people are planning for it and they're more prepared because they've been desiring that. And I wasn't in the desire of that. It took me 7 months to accept motherhood and a
Mm.
whole year to fall in love with it.
Wow.
And so it was a long process, and I felt very resentful towards my partner. I
Mm.
felt like it wasn't fair that I was going through all the pain. I had 7 mastitis.
Mm.
Um, and if you had mastitis, you know how painful they are. I didn't take any antibiotics. It was just clearing them all naturally. So you have to squeeze your breasts for that inflammation to come out. It feels like a truck rolling over your breast, and I remember just crying, like, why does it have to be so hard? And
Mm.
I was in so much pain. I had the most beautiful birth. I gave birth to my daughter at home exactly how I wanted. And then I thought birth was going to be the end of the whole thing. Birth was the freaking beginning. Birth birth was the portal to everything else.
Yeah.
And it was really hard, uh, that I resented my partner a lot, because it wasn't the one that was going through all the body shifts and experiences that I was going through. Um, and there's a part of me, I planned a launch for the summer after I took 1 month off and went back into the contracts that I have. I was teaching sales in different communities. I was teaching
Mm.
sales for Mind Valley and for different communities at the time. And I went back right into teaching into those contracts a month after. I
Wow.
needed to know that the version that was there before was still alive. I was trying to
Mm.
keep her alive for dear life. And um,
Mm.
today I'm Zaya's two. I breastfed her for 2 years.
Mhm.
So that was a long time breastfeeding. At some point, I was just really done, but I was committed to finishing 2 years with her. Now we're in a much, much spacious phase where she has her nanny, her nanny has been with us for since she was 3 months, so she has a
Wow.
bond with her nanny. We have a bond with her nanny, with her nanny's family, so we really trust them. And uh, I can go away for a weekend. I can travel, and know that she's fine. At the same time, I always wanted to bring her along. So, last year, it was a massively expansive year for me, where I got invited to speak at different stages, Mind Valley being one, Copy Posse in Canada being another, with big stages, in the middle of my um, uh, what is it called? The leave that we have
Oh,
once
your
we are
maternity leave?
maternity leave,
Mm.
so I never got a maternity leave. Um,
Hmm.
and and what I loved is that I always brought Zaya with me. It was
Mm.
never choosing this life or that life. I managed to create a space where I would bring support and have my family or Zaya's nanny, Zaya's father, my partner, who would fly in to support me while I'm speaking at Mind Valley and be with her and bring her to the zoo while I'm on stage. And it was just this beautiful dynamic. So motherhood has been the full spectrum of the all emotions. It has been extremely difficult, heartbreaking. There's this rage that came through as well, and the most loving, powerful. We look at her, and I'm in awe. I'm like, how amazing! How
Mm.
amazing can this get? How amazing can you get? It's just pure awe and everything else with it at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There is the whole spectrum.
The whole
Talk about
spectrum
the
at the
thousand
same.
qualities of wind, thousand
Right,
qualities of motherhood.
right,
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
thousand qualities of wind at the same time. And it really expanded my capacity to hold. I didn't have to be one thing or another. I didn't have to be all resentful. It was just, or feel like the pressure to be in love with that phase that was also really hard because people tell me it's not gonna last, not gonna last. And
Mm.
people have this somehow people think that it's okay to tell you things when you become a mother, like this is not going to last, so you better enjoy it.
Right. Right.
Or, oh, this is normal. Every woman experiences it. Oh, this is motherhood. Get used to it.
Yes.
And in this, it comes that you get massively invalidated in your experience, in your feelings, in what's true for you. And people don't know, and mothers. My mother, my sister, mothers don't know how to hold space for mothers,
Hmm.
which is wild
Hmm.
how we're recreating this, and so people think that it's okay to put their fingers and say like, oh yeah, this is how it's going to be, and this is how, and it's like, no. So I actually became, um, I didn't want to hear other people's stuff and opinions because I'm like, you're just like telling me, projecting your stuff onto me. And
Mm.
so I was very careful who I selected to support me in that space as well. um, we can talk more about motherhood at different time because I know that there's different aspects of it that we can bring to life. But I think the most important thing about motherhood is, um, can we give ourselves space to design a new paradigm for that as well?
Hmm.
You and your daughter solo parenting while living your dharma, your purpose. And I see, I guess, I believe it's like uh Wonder Woman behind you,
Oh
this
yeah.
little um
Little
and
superwoman.
yeah, being superwoman, but also honoring all that who you are and developing new paradigms for our daughters and sons. Um, knowing that the paradigm that we came in is the traumatized paradigm that we worked so hard to destroy, dissolve, and construct a new one that works for us. So, what's the paradigm that we want to give our children moving forward?
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that because I think it's so important for women to be able to share their journey. And this was in a few minutes. And I wish we, like you said, we could talk about this another time because I feel there's a lot of healing that happens when women have space to talk about their motherhood journey. And actually, I want to interview my mom for the podcast to be able to dive
Yeah.
into that a bit more because her journey has been different, and I think every woman has a different experience of her journey to becoming a mother, expanding into it, her own matrescence journey, and I feel it's
Mhm.
ever evolving. I'm 40, my mom's in her 70s, but I'm still her daughter, and like it's challenging
Yeah.
now. There's so I think I really appreciate you being honest because, like you said, sometimes it's easy to like brush off someone's feelings because it might not be the same,
Mhm.
and often they're not. Like I had a very different experience than you, and yet there's this thread that connects all of us, women, and mothers. And I feel, a big part of my work has been giving women space to define like how they're being called to be a mother and give themselves that space to evolve in that because it can look very different. And in fact,
Mhm.
it's funny that I didn't even think about this, but that Superwoman doll is on like a stack of my books, Aspiring Mama, and one of the chapters is to break up with Superwoman. So,
Mm.
I love this little figurine, but a big
Mhm.
part of breaking up with that is like the idealism, because like
Yep.
you said even earlier, is like to be vulnerable means there's strength. And I think there's a lot of breaking down these ideals of what being a mom is supposed to
Yeah.
be and
And
reconnecting to what it is. Yeah,
can I offer something here?
of course.
I believe it's redefining what being a superwoman is.
Mm-hmm.
Not even breaking up with it, but giving it a meaning that actually serves us,
Right.
that
Yeah.
actually honors our fragility and our softness and our grief and our pain and our emotions and our drive and our pleasure and our space. For so long, being superwoman was be the perfect mom, be the perfect parent, be the perfect CEO boss, have your
Yeah.
business, manage it all, hold all the places. And it's just such an unfair place for us to be. So yeah, let's break up with that.
Yes.
But it's just a definition that was given to us.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be the definition. We can absolutely redefine, press reset, upgrade a new paradigm to what that relationship to being a superwoman gets to be. That's what it is.
Yes. I love that. We've covered so much ground today, and I feel it was just like a little taster of your magic, and I'm so grateful for what you
Mm.
shared. I like to end these conversations with kind of the like 1 minute summary. What's something you would want to share with a woman who's, reconnecting to herself right now, or maybe at a crossroads and awakening her inner power? What do you want her to know? Or what should she
There,
know? What's that one thing you want to say?
there is nothing more important than you being really connected to yourself and uh, honoring your desires, honoring your truth, honoring your boundaries, honoring your passion, your pleasure, honoring your needs. There's absolutely nothing more important than that. Everything else will stem from that. And we cannot build a new paradigm, a new earth without you doing that. It is your job. And it's a job that is so important that will impact how we live as a society, as a species on Earth moving forward.
Hmm. Thank you, Renata. And I think that's so important because what you said there, like this is your job. And I remember earlier, or actually at the end of last year, was part of an exercise I did for myself was like, what's my work in the world? Because sometimes
Mhm.
I can compartmentalize it more just on the professional plane. But there were elements of what you just shared in that. It's like my work in the world is so much bigger than my career. Like there's, as you say,
Mhm.
like who am I becoming? How am I developing myself? How am I connecting to myself? Because that has a ripple effect. So thank you so
And
much.
you're so welcome. I'll just add this. It's the all that so that you are housing a frequency that is really impactful in the world. And so that you become the vessel for a frequency that is a lot more elevated and that is carrying a new paradigm, that is carrying your visions, that is carrying a purpose. So it's a frequency of how you be, not necessarily what you're doing in your job or your career. It's of how you be in the world. That's what matters most.
Hmm. Amen. Now, where can people find you? I know you have several things going on. What's most alive in your world that maybe people can go learn more about, and where can people find you?
People can find me on my website at renatademelo.com and on Instagram at I am Renata De Melo. Um, very, very simple. Uh, I I have a few things that I'm working on right now. I don't know. I would love for this to be timeless and just know that the work whether I'm teaching sales with our program Nest, or I'm carrying embodiment retreats for women that we do with Unearth, or that we're helping women to really ignite and bring out their high priestess to the world. The job is always around harnessing the energy, working with the energy, and knowing, becoming the vessel that you want to become in the world.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to share the links. And like you said, wherever this lands in someone's world, the expression of that might be different, but the essence will be there. Thank you so much for taking this time today.
Great.
I have one more request, and feel free if you're comfortable, and if not, that's fine. Um, but you mentioned chanting, and would you be open to doing a short chant to wrap up our conversation today?
Yes, of course. All right. Anything that you want to bring to life here, or do you want me to just bring whatever?
I will trust you on this one. Whatever feels right for you. I would love to see what magic it might awaken and just be something that maybe people can come back to.
Sure, but let's try this. Let's take a deep breath in. And we talked about motherhood, so I'll bring a chant to Yemanja, who is the deity and the goddess of the ocean. And this is so all mothers everywhere in the world feel held, loved, taken care of, and remember the power um, that they are a whole universe themselves. Yemanja. Iosindarere ye manja komaru ye manja Iosindarere minha doce manja ye manja Iemanjae, Iosindarere, Iemanjá Komaru, Iemanjaô. Iosindarere, minha doce Iemanjá, Iemanjaô. E é doce lundé, e araorô. Iemanjá Komarô, Iaraorô. E é doce lundé, Iaraorô. Iemanjá Komarô, Iaraorô. Eudocia.
That was so beautiful. Thank you.
Mm.
I feel so privileged to have experienced that with you. I immediately hearing your voice, I was just like, wow, she's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. So grateful for you and your power and your magic. I feel this will not be the last, and I look forward to our next conversation in however way our paths continue to cross. I'm sending so much love to you and your family, and I look forward to speaking again.
Thank you. It's been an honor, always an honor. Yeah, may this uh, create ripples that will change lifetimes and generations and impact this new paradigm that we are creating.